It's the chilling sight London hopes it will never see. Armed terrorists on the loose, determined to kill. Today, this is the nightmare scenario in the biggest terrorist exercise ever held in the capital. Only a handful of people know the script, so the race to respond is real. These, the first armed officers to arrive. There are now hostages inside. Scotland Yard says there is no specific threat to London, but this is the exact sort of attack that France, Australia and now Tunisia have all experienced.
The reason we have exercises like today is because obviously we are concerned that there are people planning terrorist events, and we intend to first of all stop them from getting to the attack, but should we not stop the terrorists in their planning, it's essential that we disrupt them in any of the attacks that may take place.
Well, we've been watching this exercise for the past 45 minutes now, and as you can see, hostages are now being brought out and taken to safety. For many working nearby, it is an unexpected and remarkable spectacle.
That was scary. The woman coming out, because it was quite realistic, like she was screaming.
That's weird. Never seen them like that. The uniform and everything, it's like they've just come off the helicopter from going to Iraq or something.
For one IT worker who was caught up in the 7/7 attacks, it brings back difficult memories.
My husband and I were on the underground train just in front of the one which was bombed, and that was a fairly frightening experience. So if they had to start bombing now in London as a simulation exercise, or even just to see people running around in kind of SWAT gear, would be quite scary.
In all, 14 different agencies are taking part in the two-day exercise, with many specialist teams being scrambled.
They have additional equipment to manage patients with gunshot wounds, and they also receive additional training, particularly around triaging patients, so to identify those really sick ones quickly, be able to treat them and get them away from the scene to emergency departments.
But I asked the overall exercise director just how realistic this is.
It will look and feel to the officers exactly as it would in a real-life situation. And I can say that these officers and emergency services, they have never faced anything like this before on the streets of London.
1,000 police officers, 1,000 more from other emergency services. And they'll be dealing with more simulated attacks tomorrow as well.
And Nick's here now. A major operation, but just to be clear, this has nothing to do with an increased threat level.
Yes, the emergency services have a legal obligation to test how well prepared they are. The last big exercise was back in 2012. Then the scenario was a chemical attack on the tube. This time we've seen how it's been marauding gunmen, as the police have described them. But they're at pains to point out that this exercise has been 6 months in the planning, and there's nothing to suggest there's a direct specific threat to London, and it's certainly not in response to the Tunisia attacks. However, the style of attack we saw there today has been something that's happened in other parts of the world, and so the security services are concerned about that, the sort of lone wolf attack. I think what's significant is what the cameras didn't capture today, because in other parts of the capital, away from lots of members of the public and also our cameras, were other simulated terrorist attacks. And that's important because it simulates what has happened in Mumbai and also in Paris, where there have been multiple locations and the emergency services have been really stretched. I asked there just how realistic this would be. It's hard to say, but for example, casualties weren't taken to hospitals today, so that's one aspect that wouldn't be completely authentic. That said, this was a huge operation. Of course, this takes on added poignancy for many as we reach the 10th anniversary of the 7/7 attacks, and we saw then how plans that you make but you pray you never have to use can be brought into action when we least expect it.
OK. Nick, thanks very much. Nick Beake.